Well, let's get started. Peter can join us when he joins us. Sean, you all set? Okay. Let's call the select board meeting to order for Monday, June 22nd at 7:02. First order of business to review the agenda for additions, removal, or adjustments. Do we have anything? No changes? Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay. If everybody could make sure they're muted and unmute when we need to speak, or raise your hand or send a chat, and we'll try and keep track of those. Public forum. If anybody would like to talk about something that would take less than 5 minutes, now's the time. If not, okay, we'll move on. Preliminary discussion about public outreach regarding Bristol policing philosophy and implementation. So Val, do you want to take that, or Bruce, you want to take that?
Well, I'll start by saying that this is on the agenda because we received several communications from citizens and select board members and others who wanted to have a community discussion about Bristol's policing in light of the events happening locally and around the world about law enforcement and racial tensions and other tensions. So this is on the agenda as a starting point to talk about how we want to engage the community in this conversation. Tonight is not necessarily the night to have that conversation. It's to plan when we will have it, how it will be. Will it be in physical communication or another Zoom meeting or some combination, or just the logistics and timing and how this would go. So now I'll turn it over to Bruce.
I think you did a good job covering it. Yes, we're open to communication, suggestions. I've had a couple of people come in as individuals to discuss things. We're looking for suggestions on some public forum and getting to know what issues and concerns people have.
If folks had a chance to look at the TA report that went out today, I captured Bruce's posting on Facebook that outlined their mission statement, their oaths of office, and some other thoughts about philosophy on policing and community policing.
Yeah, our primary focus is community policing. We are out in the public. We try to be out there at least twice a day on foot. So we should be easily accessible. And usually that's in the downtown area. But people can reach us by email, by telephone, and we are very interested in what you have to say.
Bruce, is your thought to do some kind of public community meeting or Zoom or something or other?
Yes.
Okay.
When I posted the thing on Facebook, I was looking for suggestions from the public on what type of forum you'd like to see. But yes, I think a public forum where we get to meet and see each other and have open discussion is a great idea.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay.
What about you, Michelle? Do you have any particular thoughts or suggestions?
No, I mean, I read Bruce's Front Porch Forum post anyway, so I think what he said was fine. I mean, I thought that having the community meeting eventually is going to be what you're going to want. I mean, you're going to get some comments and thoughts and suggestions between now and then anyway. So it'll just give us a chance to at least have those comments, and then we can discuss them and whatever else comes up at that meeting. I mean, you're currently going through the policies, and we have to wait for the state, because my understanding the state's going through and changing policies as well, correct, Bruce?
Yes, everybody's reviewing things at this time, and we're trying to make sure that we have the most current acceptable practices in place that have been reviewed by attorneys and groups.
Okay. Right.
Is all that information available on the town website, or do we need to put it there?
Which information?
Just the policies that we have in place now for our police department.
Not all of them are on there. I can provide you with policies and you can post them.
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, we definitely need to update sort of the police department section of the website. So that would be handy to have those, and I can post those this week.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions?
Well, do we want to pick a target date? Talk about how my understanding then that folks are just waiting to hear people respond by email or Facebook to collect suggestions and then come back to it?
I think that might be a good way to handle it. You know, I've had 2 residents reach out to me with some detail that they'd like to sort of discuss in a wider kind of forum. And so it might be, maybe it's a good way to sort of wait a little bit of time, collect information from people, and then reach out to those people and sort of invite them into the forum as well as publicize it and make it public. So maybe just have a little bit of time pass as we can sort of collect as much information as possible, and then sort of engage those people that have engaged us, and you know, have that as a starting point.
Well, and I think we also have to wait for the state to come out with whatever they're going to do, because, you know, whatever our policies currently are now may change based on what they come back with.
Right. And it's not necessarily sort of changing our policies, but it's just sort of having a more public discussion, and whether it be on Zoom, which is obviously a little bit more difficult to do than in terms of the interaction, than having it publicly where you're actually in the same room or outside somewhere, or maybe we do both. Maybe that's something where we do a Zoom as well as do sort of an outside if people are amenable to that.
Okay.
So we will wait until the next meeting on July 13th to review what we've gathered and perhaps have a range of suggestions by then.
I think that's a good idea. Give them 2 weeks. Well, whatever it is, 2 weeks.
It'll be 3 this time.
Okay, 3 for Bruce to get some input and information, and who, you know, maybe the select board members will get some as well. But my guess is it's probably going to get to Bruce before it gets to us, and then we'll talk schedule and meetings.
Okay.
Okay. Next, park use application, recurring Black Lives Matter demonstration at Town Green, 1st and 3rd Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. Okay, so Val, who is here on that one? Is that Anna? Anna and Emily and okay.
And Abby.
And Abby. So whichever one of you wants to tell us what you're going to do and explain your application, and we'll go from there.
Sure, we can all like take turns, like and which things that we're all most well versed on. Anna, do you want to start by just like a description of what it was, since you wrote that part out?
Yeah, sure. So what we were thinking is just a peaceful demonstration on the 1st and 3rd Thursday of every month, like you said. And the point of it would be to kind of keep awareness on the topic of Black Lives Matter, even after like the social media part of the trend blows over, because right now it's really big on social media, but things like this people tend to kind of forget, and we really want to keep awareness there. And so we would just hold signs on the corner between North Street and Main Street, just as a reminder, like from white people to white people, that this is still important, and it is up to all of us to care about these topics. So I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, and then we also, in addition to holding signs, maybe holding a few chants, we are also probably going to have resources available, and Emily Tardy has pulled together a pretty comprehensive list of those. So Emily, if you want to talk about those maybe.
Yeah, I believe our plan is to have like a sign with a QR code on it that you can just scan it and you can access this giant document of petitions to sign as far as like local like legislation and like those sorts of things go, like on the state level, not necessarily the town level, and also like places to donate, places to learn, yeah, we have a super big list going. I think it'd be good for people to have access to.
Would you have a table or anything, or is this going to be the QR code that people can just scan?
Probably just to scan. I think in this time of I don't know, just like germs and uncertainty, I don't think it would be the
Right.
greatest idea to have in-person petition signing. There's a ton of stuff online though, which is just super great.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, of course, I didn't mention this when I was describing the event, but we would be following all social distance guidelines, and masks would be required for anyone who is standing on the corner and 6 feet apart if you're not quarantined with somebody else.
And it's just the corner area versus using the bandstand or using the rest of the park?
Yeah, just the corner.
And you don't think you'll have more than 20 people?
I put a very tentative number because I'm not really sure because it is recurring, hopefully for the foreseeable future. You know, as time goes on, I can see, you know, those numbers will most certainly dwindle. I mean, I was hoping for this type of discussion just so that I could make clear that those numbers are, you know, a tentative estimate, and that I can certainly see it getting up to a few more people than that. But I don't think that like on a regular basis, it's going to be like 50 people, 100 people every single time.
In the group that we have right now, I think we have a group chat where we've been discussing the current events and planning this, and I think we have 15 people in it. And so, I mean, I'm guessing that for them, I feel like we'll stay under 20 for sure. I can't imagine it.
I think at the most maybe like 45, like if a lot of people came out, because let's say, for instance, that all 15 of us showed up, which is not necessarily certain. And let's say that one of our friends showed up, and then we have another 15, and then just for safety, add on a couple more. But we can amend that if that's misleading.
No, my concern would be if you had hundreds of people sitting there on the corner and, you know, safety reasons and that. Bruce, do you have any concerns? I mean, as long as they're on the corner, I'm assuming we're okay.
As long as they're not blocking the sidewalk or the streets, I have no concerns.
Val, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. John, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm new at this ish. I don't want to stand in the way of you guys giving approval to these leaders for this expression of free speech, but I do want to ask the town if it is your policy that people need to ask the town's permission to exercise their First Amendment rights before they do so on the very literal center of the town common. To me, I think that I understand the utilitarian aspect of approving festivals or things with vendors and expecting hundreds and hundreds of people from out of town to come and hang out for hours and hours. I get the idea of like a fair or something needs a permit, but for an expression of free speech, I don't think anybody needs to ask permission of the town, frankly. And I just wonder, is it the town's policy that 20 or 30 or 40 or 100 people who want to express their First Amendment rights need the town's blessing for that?
They need the town's blessing because we have a policy that they have to have a permit for the use of the park. It's not so much the free speech, it's the use of the park.
It's called a public assembly and, public assembly and something else ordinance. And there are different
and when it
of review.
Sorry. Yeah, when it passed, what year was that?
2017.
Right. I raised concerns about along First Amendment rights, that while I understand the town's issue with controlling the green for safety and that sort of thing, that when a bunch of towns were passing these ordinances in 2017 all over the country, I objected to that. To our joining them and passing it here in Bristol, because it does nothing less than require a municipal approval for what I consider the expression of free speech. And I don't want to clog things up here, but to our young leaders here, you don't need to ask for permission to express your free speech as long as you do so peacefully and in an orderly way, whether it's especially if it's on public property, the town common. So you're doing the right thing by following the policy that's in place, but I just want to register an objection to the policy.
Noted.
John.
Anybody else have any questions? Comments?
Michelle,
Yes, Mark, go ahead.
Mark Bouvier. Respectfully, John, I disagree. I think clearly the town has established a policy that says you want to use our public park, regardless of what the occasion is. Legion requires the permit, or they require the permit of the American Legion to hold Memorial Day. So I think it's a good thing to have in place. It has nothing to do with free speech. It's using a piece of property that belongs to all the community. And I think having a policy in place makes good sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Anybody else?
Michelle,
Yes, go ahead, Joel.
ladies, I commend you for speaking out and doing this. But like 2 weeks ago, we were here and we approved one, and they put down the permit up to 25. And I think the newspaper Addison Independent predicted that Tuesday there were somewhere between 300 and 350 people marching. How do you control this if you get over 25 by the governor's orders? As I said 2 weeks ago, I'd rather you go and ask for forgiveness later and do it than ask myself to break the governor's order of over 25 people. That's what you're asking me tonight to do, is to vote. I predict there's going to be well over 25 people. And I hope you do. Honestly, I hope you do. I believe in this cause, but also the governor has stated we can't have over 25 people congested in one space until this coronavirus is over with. And you're asking the board to break the law, so you're not breaking an ordinance every other Thursday. So I just want to know how you're going to handle that when, you're counting away with your clicker and you say, we're up to 25, please, everybody turn around, and the rest of you are going to have to leave.
Joel, I think he's updated it to 50 people.
It will be updated as of July 1st to 50 people, Michelle.
Oh, I thought it was Monday, but okay.
That is
So I just want to ask the question, is how are you going to handle turning people away?
well, because the first Thursday will be after July 1st, or whenever it gets changed, whether it's Monday or July 1st. I cannot imagine a situation where we have over 50 people. I mean, I know that Abby said it could be up to 40, but personally, I can't imagine it getting that big. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure, but I would be very surprised if it went beyond the orders, especially when the order gets switched to 50, and that is when we'd be starting.
Furthermore, with the recurring nature of it, I think, like I said, numbers will dwindle, and also I think that again, because it's not something that you can necessarily it's not like a one-time event that you're going to miss. So I think that if it did come to the point where we had to say, hey guys, super sorry, but we need to obey this law for public safety, come in 2 weeks. I think that on some level, people would be really understanding of that. One, because it is youth led, and two, because.
So are you saying if the very first Thursday night you have your gathering and the police chief counts excess of 100 people, and if the board said, okay, it comes to a screeching halt, no more after that Thursday night, would you object to that?
I think it's fair that we follow the orders of the state, especially at a time like this when when you have to be really careful about the spread of the virus. So I think that would be fair if we had that many people. I really don't see a situation where we have that many people, but I think that would be fair.
I think I'd just be curious to know what the laws are surrounding even public beaches and such, because I know that there's definitely more than 50 people on a beach. I don't know. I mean, there are definitely ways that we could spread out. I just don't know if that falls within our permits. I don't know, within what the permit says. I don't know how far we'd be able to spread out into the park, but we would definitely do our best to enforce a 6-foot distance and mask wearing as well as that.
And I think, isn't there I could be wrong, so please correct me, but isn't there a one-time warning?
Abby, can you speak up? I can't quite hear you. Abby, can you speak up, please?
Yes, sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there's a one-time warning if you hold a protest without a permit. So I'm just pointing out that, let's say the first time things got out of hand, you could consider that a warning, and then from there on, at least we'd know that we need to make a change or figure something else out if things do get out of hand.
Go ahead, Val.
At one of the governor's press conferences recently, a reporter asked the governor why community events like fairs and festivals and parades were not allowed, but that the public gatherings were allowed or not discouraged. And his answer was that he distinguished them in that the public fairs and festivals are optional, that they are they're kind of elective, and other arrangements could be made, but he felt that in this particular point in time that it was important for people to be able to express themselves in these ways. So that's how he distinguished it.
Well, Val, I didn't get to hear Fridays, but I thought I saw something about he was allowing 150 people in something, and I can't remember now what it was. Do you recall that? Okay.
No, I don't.
Part of it
Krista,
too,
or
the way that
whoever's hand is raised under Krista's name.
Thanks. I'm just peripherally supporting these young people in this effort, but I did mention to them that they might consider just, or at least my daughter's just doing it and asking for forgiveness later. But I don't think that was that palatable an option because they want to do the right thing and follow the procedures. And so I guess I would just go back to John Moyer's point that this then puts you guys in a pickle. And I think it does create this tension where, at the last time that the youth requested the permit, there were questions about what language might be used on the sidewalk. Would there be any comments negative toward our police force? And so that's where you get into a really slippery slope of trying to manage free speech. And so I think it is something for this board to really think about moving forward, how to allow folks to exercise that right in a way that you don't have to manage. So anyway, and if they do decide that your requirements, this group particularly decide your requirements are too tricky and they're, what happens if they get a warning? Like, could we carry that out? Does that, what does that mean if they want to still do this? If they decide not to file an official permit, what would that look like for them? So I guess
Well, Val, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have issued warnings before with people who haven't gotten permits, and eventually there is a fine that can be issued for not getting the permit. The permit is really just to make sure we have all of the resources in place to keep it safe, so if there's going to be 300 people, we want to make sure Bruce is there, or we have enough resources to make sure everybody's safe. We're not trying to limit free speech. That really has nothing to do with what this policy is about. It's really for the resources and to keep people safe. Is that right, Val?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, John.
I hear what you're saying, Michelle, and I know the intent is good on the select board's part, but the reality is the policy gives a select board, be it you guys or some future select board, a veto over people's ability to gather on the town common and exercise their First Amendment rights. And I'm not comfortable with that. And I'd love to ask the board to officially consider repealing that policy or amending it in such a way that allows the town to have management of that for the kind of events that need it, but doesn't tread on First Amendment rights. Because asking for permission, having to ask for permission to speak your mind on a matter of politics and civil issue is managing free speech. Because you can deny that permission, and not that you guys are going to do that, But a future board, who knows? Maybe they don't like the people who have something to say. Maybe they exercise their dislike by denying permission. Is anybody here comfortable with that scenario?
See, I don't look at it that way, I guess, and maybe that's because I'm open-minded. I mean, I look at it as, we're not granting them or not granting them permission to speak their mind. We're not granting them permission based, I mean, the biggest discussion here is based on what the state's requirements are allowing us to do. I mean, that's really what this whole discussion is. I mean, if we didn't have the state's limitations on, gathering size and that, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd just be saying, yeah, okay, you have a permit.
No, I get that, but the policy still would be in place. And the objection is with the policy. Again, it's not with you all as a select board, because I think your intent is a good one. Mm-hmm. I take you at your face value. You want to encourage these folks. But I'm concerned, and separate from the issues of what the state's requiring municipalities to do vis-a-vis public gatherings, which is a serious issue that you need to consider, and anybody who would gather a protest or a demonstration of some sort needs to consider. But the policy stands there, and it's irked me ever since it was first discussed. And I'm glad it's come up now. It wasn't on my mind to bring it up, but here it is. And it's a good thing we have a select board that we like, but in the future, there may be a voting majority, which is only 3 people, who can deny a permit for something they don't like. I'm not comfortable with that. Is anybody else comfortable with that?
So John, I have a question for you. So on June 8th, which is when we discussed the previous permit, we talked about, we agreed to the permit, and if there were any profane or vulgar words were written on the sidewalks, that they would be cleaned up before they left. Do you think that's acceptable, or do you think we overstepped by asking profane and vulgar words not to be put down, or if they were put down, to be cleaned up afterwards? What do you think about that?
Yes, but it's different from a group having to get permission to have their say.
But so what happens when, so they don't need to get permission, and it happens, and there's profanity and things written all over the park for a particular event? Like how would we handle that?
We would know who the leaders are. We go talk to them as a town and say, this is unacceptable and you need to clean it up.
How would we know who the leaders are if they don't need to come, and anyone can just go to the park?
That's a fair question, but free speech is sloppy, and it offends some people sometimes, and that's tough because it's free speech. It's the First Amendment. People don't need to ask permission to get out on a public way and say what they want to say about politics in the world. It's just not the way the Constitution is written. I know it's inconvenient. Too bad.
Eric, did you have something? Hang on, Joel. I'll get to you in a minute.
No, Ian asked the question I wanted to ask, so I'm good.
Joel, go ahead.
You got somebody down in the corner who's been trying to get in here for a while. 3818-453.
Ron LaRose.
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
I'm listening, eavesdropping. My concern is the honesty of this permit versus the last one that you approved. And I guess I was a little too honest when we were having a ceremony for Memorial Day. Somebody asked me, I didn't fill out the application because we were separated, and how many people do you expect to have there? I said, well, on a good day, we've had upwards of 200. Okay, that denied me right there. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said 10. I should have said 25 like they did here 2 weeks ago. Then they had it. And then this blew up into whether the policy is right or wrong, it's immaterial, it's in place. And right now the governor says no more than 35. And these people are dreaming. If they think they're going to have a get together for Black Lives Matter and there's only going to be upwards to 20 to show up there, that's an impossible. That's a dream. And all it does is create turmoil for our small streets and sidewalks, people there. So you got a policy in place. You're not going to reverse it tonight, but I'm just looking for a little honesty and consistency. And when you approve the usage of Bristol property, that's my say.
Thanks, Ron.
Ron, you're probably right. If you had given us a permit that said you were only going to have 10 people there, it probably would have been approved because it would have been within the guidelines that the governor gave us.
Next year, when this comes up, I'll be lying.
Well, I don't want you to lie, but you.
And how good is a policy? How good is a policy that entices people to lie? Not a good policy if that's the way people approach it.
Joel, go ahead.
John,
Mike, I'll come to you.
John, the policy doesn't, the COVID-19 is requiring them to lie on the permit, not whether you want free speech. I'm all for free speech. If they, all 15 of you want to come over to my yard, go ahead. I'm at work all day. Come right on over and use it. I won't need to get a permit because it's not public property. It's private. I pay the 48 or $5,000 tax bill a year. My wife and I, no one else. So if you want to use mine, come on over. But if you want to use the park, John, it's not about free speech. It's about, that's a public park to be used. And if we're going to have, last 2 weeks ago, we were told 25 and it was in excess of 350 there. The police, rescue need to know we're having a large gathering and there might be, rescue might not have anybody on. So they may say, boy, there's going to be a large gathering. You don't think Bristol Rescue doesn't have anybody on during the 4th of July parade? Of course they do, because they know there's a large gathering. That was why that policy was developed, not because of free speech. Christ almighty, no way.
Well, you know what's interesting, Joel.
My language. Wait a minute, John. I'm not done. I'm not done, John. My father sat in a prison camp for over a year in Germany, got shot down to fight guys like Hitler, to have free speech, so we can burn that flag, so we can march in the street, so we can have all that. And I'm all for it. So don't sit there and say this is about free speech on the park. It's about using a piece of land that the taxpayers own, and we have to control it.
Public land where the Constitution is in force. And I'm glad Ron, for example, Ron LaRose, like the veterans have to ask permission to go to the public square and have a say. Really? Veterans?
I have to complete a permit to use the bandstand for Memorial Day ceremony.
The bandstand, okay. Bandstand is one thing. People standing on the street corner expressing a political opinion is another.
Hey, John, I got to get some other people in here. Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Perfect, thanks. And thanks for facilitating this discussion. I want to echo some of what John Moyers is saying. You know, as Joel finished up there, you know, the word control came out. And anytime I hear control, it worries me. It suggests to me that you're controlling more than just the gathering. So what I might suggest is, if this policy is in place, which it is, that the select board should take every measure possible to try to be as open as they can. So trying to bring it back to the issue at hand, it seems to me that if we're talking about 35 people on a single corner, that there may be ways that we could envision using multiple corners as separate gatherings to account for the possibility that this might get bigger. In other words, I think that the approach should be, we as a town do everything in our power to facilitate speech up to the point where we can't accommodate it any further. And so to me, it's not a matter of what happens if you have 25 or 35, it's what policy can we put in place to facilitate the most speech that we can.
Thanks, Mike. And I was going to say the recommendation level, whether it be 10 or 25, you know, the language that's written, that's for indoor. Outdoor, I think, is another matter. And so it's not precisely clear. The language does not say indoor and outdoor, because with outdoor you can have more people. And when we discussed it 2 weeks ago for the first use of the park for the Black Lives Matter event, we knew as a select board that there were going to be a lot more people there. And you know, looking at what the number was on the form versus the ability to separate, as Mike said, and spread out and use the space that's available, we took that into consideration when we approved that.
Anna, go ahead. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah. I just want to add that I understand the concern because of the number of people, and I understand that last time the other protests that they went over what they had recommended. But I would just like to say that we are a different group, and we are being as fully honest as we can be. We're not expecting more people than that because this is sort of something planned as a small group as opposed to like a big public event. Of course, if people want to join in, we're not going to say, no, you can't be a part of this, but we're as a group. And so I think that our estimate is going to be, we're going to just think that, we aren't them, and that's all.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions about the permit?
Michelle,
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I think one of the areas as I developed policy over the years is you really have to look and you have to remove yourself from, I realize the select board has that ask for the information in terms of pertinent data that they need to know. I think even John alluded to, so if there was an issue, you would know at least who to go back to and check. But you really need to look at it, above that and say it's regardless of who's asking, you need certain information. And I agree that that's public property. And what if this was a Trump rally? Would everybody feel the same? Something at the opposite end of the extreme one might argue. So, but you can't look at it that way. I think you look at, regardless of who wants to stand on that corner and offer their free speech, they're certainly entitled to, but the town has in place a policy that says we need to have some pertinent information, so we're aware as to what's going on and who's responsible, regardless of what the nature of that protest or gathering is for free speech. And I think that's how you have to look at it. You separate yourself from what the purpose of that gathering is and just look at it as, the parameters and logistics of it, and do they meet the town guidelines? Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Anybody else? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion or to approve the permit?
I make a motion that we approve the permit.
We have a second? Jolie, there's only 3 of us.
That's right. You're right.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
I just want to point out in my report, if I can find it here, I recommended that considering a duration of 2 or 3 months and require the organizers to reapply if the demonstrations are expected to continue. This would allow the select board to assess whether conditions at that time warrant additional considerations.
I guess, Valerie, whether I'm going to vote for this or not, I'm not sure right still. But if this permit, I would like to have it, when I asked the young ladies earlier, if the first time they get 75 to 100, and we can say, here again, I'd rather you, because of the governor's order, and we'd have to get it straightened out. I'm not saying Ian's wrong, but I'm not sure he's right either about whether it's inside or outside. I'd like to a little more, as I made the first motion way back 2 weeks before Memorial Day, that the Legion could have theirs based on the Department of Health and the governor. I took the board out and you guys didn't agree with that. I would like to amend this, or at least to say that if these rallies, the very first one is well beyond the health departments and the governor's coronavirus, Dr. Levine's recommendations for public gatherings, then we reevaluate. But I don't want to put an end to this. I mean, I think of there's a group of people that stand down there on a Friday at 5 o'clock. Patty Lee, Heather Lee is one of them, and a couple others. I'm sorry I missed their names, but I know Patty's been.
The Peace Rally.
The Peace Rally. They have been faithfully since we went into Iraq War some 12 years ago, and they faithfully there every Friday night. And that's good. Because if you want to have this rally after this Corona thing and we got a vaccine and everything's over, you want to have it every Friday night or whatever, go ahead and have it on that corner. But I would like to still say, if the board votes this in, are we breaking the governor's orders? If they had the first night, they have 100, we have to reevaluate.
Ian?
The social distancing, like Mike said, and I shook my head, he probably saw it, and I said, didn't think of that idea. You have maybe 5 on the bandstand with a speaker, and you have 4 different corners or 4 different corners of that part, and you have 25 on a corner. Is that social distancing? I think it would be. You got 100 feet in between you. It's plenty. I'm willing to be reasonable here, but I don't like, as I said 2 weeks ago, when the governor gives an order, as select board and public officials, we kind of have to agree that we agree with. I mean, Aston County has seen a little bit of a spike in the last few days I've seen, and I've heard it's a little bit from Bristol. I saw that from the Middlebury emergency manager today, his blog. Was that from 2 weeks ago's protest march? Who knows? Who could ever tell that? But I don't want to help the spread of this thing. I want to nip it in the bud in a hurry.
Ian, your thoughts?
I mean, that gets into more controlling territory, which I'm not comfortable with. I think there's enough space on the green and around the green to separate and to have people there. So if it is more, I think it's up to that group to organize and try as best they can to be distanced. I think that's the only way. I mean, you could also do it where we could not approve this tonight and they can go ahead and do it, and we could send them a warning. You know, we've already sent a warning to the first group, but you know, I don't know if we can. I'm not comfortable sort of setting more control on it, because I think we don't at this time, we don't have that control. We're not able to do it. I think the biggest thing, at least what I saw in the first rally, was just the sheer amount of people. Yes, I thought everyone was pretty well distanced from each other, but there were some people walking in the street, and I don't think that's acceptable. And so I think, as like Bruce said at the very beginning of this discussion, sort of, you know, if people abide by the rules, aren't walking in the street and are where they're supposed to be, that's safe. I think that's what we have to allow.
Yeah, my only concern would be is if there's 300 people, if the girls get surprised and you wind up with 300 people, that we have the resources there available. That's my only concern. But I don't, I think there's enough space, like you said, on the park. If they get more than 50, that people can spread out and be socially distanced. But that's really up to the girls to monitor that. I mean, whether they put in 100 people or 50 people, we can't. We're not going to be on the park regulating that. We're putting it in their hands to make sure that they do that.
Right, and for the organizers, you have a little bit of control in terms of how big you want that group to be. In terms of who you're recommending to come and who you're encouraging to come. Is it an open, completely public event? Is it a more organized event with key people sort of in your groups and in your groups of friends? So I think you have the ability there too to sort of control a little bit and be mindful of the size of your group.
And I don't know if you saw Sean's post, but he said, some of the events are requesting people to stay home and watch it live stream. I don't know if you guys are going to be doing that, but that may be something to put out there and maybe help control your numbers.
Sure. I do know I was just in Washington, D.C. at the protests there, and a lot of them were live streamed on Instagram for people who couldn't make it or who it wasn't safe to go out. And so I think that's definitely something that we could consider, that one of us could live stream it to our followers, because of course, since most of us go to Mount Abe or went to Mount Abe, I think we know a lot of the kids in the area and we're all connected through social media. So I think that could be something that we could consider for sure. Mm-hmm. And also, as you were saying, the difference between a fully public event and a more controlled event, I think that this is more on the side of controlled, whereas the other ones seem to be more on the side of public. I think because we have this group chat that we've been discussing and making plans for, I think those are the main people, but that if some of our other friends wanted to participate, we wouldn't turn them away, but we are expecting not a huge group like the other one.
Okay.
And as you said before, it's sort of an ongoing event. It's not just a single time that you're doing it. So you have, like you said, there'll be more opportunities to join if numbers begin to get high for the first event.
We based our whole idea was to do exactly what Patty does, hopefully with a couple more people and with a different topic. Okay. So when whoever mentioned Patty, that's what we're going for.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion?
I guess, Abby, you're the applicant then? So
yes,
I'd advise you not to be the applicant for all the time.
Yeah. No, we worked on it as a group. Various group members, we kind of just broke it down.
Well, I mean, if you and Annie are the applicant, And then if it's the third time, there's over 100 people, there's a fine there, and I don't want to see you get a fine. If you had a different applicant, a different application every time, you just get a warning letter. You
All
follow
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's on mine.
He's
Very
telling you
nice,
how
Joe.
to beat the system, Abby.
Right, right, exactly. Exactly. Telling you how to beat the system.
Yeah.
You put it down for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and
Yeah.
and that's 12 of those things. You could get a fine.
I think
Okay.
so. Revisiting Valerie's question a little while ago about should we revisit? I would like to revisit just in a few months, if that's okay, if everyone's amenable to that, just to the application, just to see how it's going, and also just to get feedback on the events and see how that's going.
Okay, so are you amending your motion for us to reevaluate in what, 2 months?
Yeah, add that. I'll add in what Valerie suggested in her
Okay.
town report.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay,
So the recommendation was either for 2 or 3 months. Do you have a preference?
3 months. I
well,
think.
2 months would give them 2, 4, 6, 8 meetings.
Right, that's true.
I say 2 months.
Okay, I'm okay with 2 months.
Okay. Of the three of us here, all those in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Opposed? Are you not voting, Joel?
I'm still thinking.
Go on.
If we're going to reevaluate it in 2 months, I'll vote yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joel. Motion carried. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate your time and
Thank you very
effort.
much.
Thank you, ladies. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay,
We'll be proud of you.
next point, Bristol Water Commission, March water bill appeal, 21 Spring Street.
And I believe Mike Golden has joined us on this Zoom meeting. Hopefully, folks, the select board members had a chance to review the information that Mr. Golden provided regarding his March water bill.
I'm here, by the way.
Yes.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Um,
Have you?
What's that?
Go ahead, Mike, if you want to speak.
Yeah.
Nothing. If you read the paper, you already know what's going on. I have a funny feeling that it's more likely that someone transposed the decimal point than it is that I used 21,000 gallons of water.
Unless you have a pool.
By the way, do you know how many gallons are in an Olympic-sized swimming pool?
Well, I know there's 12,000 gallons in a 4-foot, 24-foot round pool.
How many?
12,000
gallons.
And how many did I use?
21,000
Two
gallons.
pools
How many people's pools did I fill?
In
I
3
don't know,
months,
how
Mike?
many neighbors do you have that's put onto your spigot?
No, I don't think so.
So
Yeah.
Jen, can you give us some insight? I mean, it seems to me like it doesn't, I mean, given that, I assume his readings after are similar to previous?
No. It's gone back but to what his usage is, but we don't enter any numbers. So the number that when we go to someone's house, we use a device to touch the touchpad, which reads that and uploads into a system and then uploads into my system. So there was no error from the reading end of things. So I mean, if there was an error and we had to make an adjustment, then I could totally understand what he is speaking about. But because we didn't have to make any adjustment, this was just what was billed. So
right, but when I asked for the data, no one gave it to me.
I thought we emailed you the data.
No, you emailed me some data from something that I asked when you guys came to take the data from the current data.
I guess I don't know what
That's
other
not the data from the previous bill.
I don't know what other data you're referring to then.
The data for that bill.
We
For the
can't go back.
December
That's
to
the
March.
data that's in question. The
I
data after that is not in question yet. The data that's in question is the data for that bill. The
I
fact that I tried even possibly could only use more than maybe 3,000 gallons of water, I would doubt seriously.
I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately the device doesn't have the ability to go back that many days.
And then I apologize. That's not my fault. But let's look at Occam's razor. You understand that theory? That all things being equal, the most obvious reason is usually correct. It transposed a decimal point. It's ludicrous.
Mike, they can't transpose a decimal point when they don't touch the data. The data is transferred electronically. Nobody touches that data.
Computers are not infallible. You haven't realized that yet. You haven't been around.
Michelle?
Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Jen, how many gallons? So first of all, these so-called 21,000 gallons he's supposedly used, that's a 3-month period, or was we longer billing period? Was it 3 months? About 90 days? What was the last two 90-day readings? In the 10, 15,000 gallons? How many? We know that?
I'd have to look.
72.50 and 62.
Number of gallons you've used, Mike.
Well, whatever $62 and whatever 72.50 comes out to, about less than half.
Yep, right. Was any work done on your system that a leaky toilet after the 21,000 gallon reading?
No.
Thing done?
No.
No repair, no nothing?
Haven't done anything since I moved into the house and ripped it all out and replaced it.
Jen, is that a new touchpad?
We did replace the meter in the touchpad recently. I want to say either in the fall or maybe at the beginning of the year, but it is a newer meter and touchpad.
And VTEMS went through the house, checked all appliances or toilets, things like that. Nothing was found amiss.
No, I have evidence of leak tests too.
Okay. And what is VTEM's thoughts on that? What are Cyrus's or Jill's thoughts?
I mean, we got the concern from Mr. Golden, so they went and reached out to him, and as they typically would do if somebody, called expressing this concern, and then we offered to do the data read, which we did and gave that information. But like I said, unfortunately, it only holds so much data. It doesn't go back. It's only can show like moving forward. So by the time we did that read, it was in April. So it doesn't necessarily help Mr. Golden because it doesn't show the time period, of the water bill.
So Jen, when it uploads to our system and produces the bill, that data isn't retained as part of the bill?
The data is, but the data he's referring to is this extra piece that we purchased. So we purchased this piece that you can attach through the touchpad, which shows hourly readings in the meter for a 30-day period. So that's the data that he's talking about that we provided him. But I mean, we have the historical data as far as, what his reading was for each building.
Yeah, okay.
Give historical data as far as total numbers, not the gallons used per day or per hour. That's the data that's in question.
Joel, did you have something?
Yeah, Jen, back to, so I'll pick a date, January 10th, they replaced the meter and you were in the maybe month 75 days into that. Do they read that old meter first, get the data off it, and then zero back the the new meter? So
yeah,
when it was zero, the new meter, till now, it's saying he's used 21,000 gallons of water?
Well, I don't know when his new meter was officially installed. Mr. Golden, do you know that answer?
3 months would be December, 3 months prior to that would be August of last year. Just in my own defense, people, I'm not insane, and I have no reason to screw the town out of any money at all. I pay my taxes. I pay every bill I have, and I do it joyfully. Matter of fact, I love the water in this town. That's half the reason I moved here. Me being in question of whether or not this is honest is insane. There's a problem.
Mike, I don't think Ian and I or Michelle are questioning your honesty at all. I'm trying to get
Okay.
what the reading was when they put a new head on there. And
Yeah, it was sometime last August, I think, or
if it was
July.
zeroed out and now it reads 21,000 gallons. Was it from last August?
No, there were two readings. There were 2
10
meters.
months?
I had 2 bills prior to this with that same meter that were $72.50 and $60 or something like that.
I think that's what Joel was asking. Those 2 bills were on this new meter,
Yeah.
the touchpad.
Okay,
Yeah.
the 72.50 and the 68 or whatever, those were on the new touchpad. And then all of a sudden, the last 3 months reading was 21,000 gallons.
Yes. Which would
Is it possible that VTOMs, could they go snap a different, I'm going to just play devil's advocate here and something happened with the meter. If they put a new meter on it, it won't, you can't say what.
We can't go backwards.
Can't go backwards.
Can't go backwards, and everybody's account number has a specified serial number that correlates to the meter. So when they read and it says this is the meter number, it directly correlates to that account. So that's how all of it connects.
Well, that's why when they came to the house and they offered to put something on the meter to make sure it was calibrated, and I said, that's fine and dandy, but the problem is the data that you took, not the data that it's producing now.
We just wanted to, we had to, unfortunately, like I said, that's the only thing that we could do, but it also could tell, what data was providing, and was there something that perhaps was being missed on the homeowner end, as far as there was a leak somewhere that you had.
And that's why I asked them to take a reading right then and send me the data, because I wanted to see if the data was skewed.
Right, so we provided you that data.
Right, and how did that look?
So you said, Mike, they just took a reading, let's say 3 days ago, early last week. So, and that would be 15, 20 days now, maybe a 30. What was that reading?
Oh, I don't remember. You'd have to ask them.
Yeah, I think they said that was in line with his previous 2 bills, right, Jen?
Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It seems more than likely that this is a mistake in some way. I don't see how it cannot be a mistake. I don't understand how he's able to use double the amount of water in a 3-month period. You have to have a pretty hefty leak. It's
almost triple.
Triple. So it's, I can look at mine. I have a piece of technology called a flume that monitors my water, and I know exactly what I've used, and I'm on town water up on Mountain Terrace. So for the same amount of time, December 10th to March 12th, I've used 9,447 gallons. And when I get my water bill, it's rounded up number. I can look at it and I've used 8,000 gallons, and I can look at my flume and I've used 7,500 gallons. So it's not perfect in terms of the system. And I don't know how. I don't know why it rounds up to 8,000 gallons. I know that I haven't used that exactly. I know that there has to be numbers, and it would be nice to see more precise numbers, frankly.
I would agree.
But I'd recommend getting one of these flumes, because they're great. They're pretty inexpensive, and it tracks your water usage. You can put it right on your meter. I have that in my house. But looking at it, and I went back 3 months at a time looking at mine, and I've never used that much. And I have my wife and I and 2 kids, and we work from home as well as being here all the time anyway.
And how many people do you have in your home?
4 people.
Right. And how many do I have?
Not 4 people.
1.
Right.
And a 10-year-old,
Right, so
50% of the time.
Right. Unless they're showering a lot.
My concern with this is that if there's a problem with the meter, we need to figure it out.
Right.
I would agree that you should probably try to change out the meter. That's why I said I'm home. I'm working from home now, so if anybody wants to come over, I'm wide open.
It's a brand new meter.
Well, I know that's what bothers me.
Anything.
I'm not.
But okay, it's a brand new meter. So Mike, you got this $21,000, 21,000 gallons of water in 3 months. You got it probably around the 1st of June, I assume.
What's
No,
it?
this was
No,
the-
no. This was
March billing.
the
Oh,
March
March
billing.
billing.
This was
Okay.
through winter.
So we're due for another reading, are we, Jen, pretty soon?
Just happened.
Gotta be right around the corner.
I would like to, I won't say table it, but reread, see what it.
I can tell you what the reading is right now. I'm
Huh?
staring. I can
What's
tell
that?
you. I can tell you the reading.
So it's been done here recently in the last week.
It was done on the 9th of June.
Okay. And that was around 75, 72, 68?
It looks like from the 10th of March to the 9th of June, about 5,000 gallons of water.
And that's because I've been home every day because I'm working from home full time now. So I use about half of that normally, or even a third of that normally. And during that billing cycle, I wasn't even here for 9 days. The house was unoccupied. 8 days, pardon me.
But also, Michael.
Living in your house, Mike, using all your water.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I was
Your
going to ask my
10-year-old has
neighbors.
been home all day from school, homeschooled, and that gets flushed a little more too. So probably 5,000 gallons. That figures what you're using in the fall of 67 and 72. Somewhere in that vicinity.
Eric, did you have something?
The only thing I was going to say was if it was during the winter months, I don't know his house, so I don't know what it's like, but up here at my house, when the temperature drops, I got to leave my water running so it doesn't freeze.
No, I don't have that issue.
If he's in the same situation as I am or not, I'm not, I don't know. It was just an idea.
No, don't have that issue.
Perfect. I'm glad for you. I have to leave mine running.
Tasha, did you have a question? You have your hand raised. Okay.
So I guess
what do
my
you
question-
Go ahead, Jen. Go
My
ahead.
question is, are now we going to give everybody a one-time forgiveness? And this has nothing against Mr. Golden.
Thank
This
you.
has everything to do with, are we going to give, if you agree to forgive this, which is your absolute right to do as a board, and I'm totally, whatever you want to do, I think is fine, but every time someone has an outlying water bill and they come to you and ask for forgiveness, are we going to agree to do that? And I'm just posing that as a question, not as anything against Mr. Golden. That's the only thing I'm wanting to ask.
Well, I can tell you what Peker would say.
Yeah, you're right.
Lee came, Everett Lee came to us. He knew he had a leak. He had $1,000 water bill. You guys said you can have no penalty and interest, but you can't get an abatement.
Right. Yeah,
Mike Ledoux had a $4,000 water bill. Same thing. No
Except
penalty
there's
and
no
interest,
leaks in my
but
house.
you didn't
My
get
plant's
abatement.
brand
So
new.
the only thing I'm saying,
And all the
is that I
shutoffs
have
are brand
nothing
new,
against
and all the
Mr. Golden. I'm just saying that are we always.
I think it has to be a case-by-case basis. I think knowing that, given that they've tested the house, given that the meter readings seem to be in line with past readings now, all of that points to looking like an error. Whereas the others, we knew that there were leaks. If they can find a leak in his house, then I think that we have more of a case to ask that the water bill be paid. The fact that we can't find the leak, I think, is the biggest issue here.
That doesn't mean there's not one.
No, but it seems like they've done a heck of a lot of testing and a lot of looking
There's
at
not
his
one,
system.
trust me.
And given the sheer amount of water as well.
I guess I could lean towards a little bit of abatement, because if VTOM says we didn't find any leaks, but what I want to know is it went in September, a brand new meter, for 6 months, it read properly. And then all of a sudden it didn't. If the first 3 months it didn't read properly and it was a $21,000, I'd say there was probably something wrong with the bill.
Right, but you don't know that because we don't have the data. So that's an incorrect statement.
We do have the
That's why I
data.
asked for the data. All we have is a total. We don't have the actual data from the meter, so there's no way to know.
Yeah, but if your bill doesn't show that you had used 21,000 gallons of water during those two readings.
You told me, Mike, that the first reading from September to December was 67 100 gallons, and then from December to March.
No, Joel, he was saying the bill was $72.50 and $62. He wasn't giving you.
Oh, he wasn't giving me the
Giving
gallons.
you
Okay,
gallons.
I'm sorry.
So I'm looking at his account right now, and the new meter was installed in April of 2019. So his first reading was a 2-month reading, and that was at 3,000 gallons. His second reading was in September of 2019. That was 6,000 gallons. December reading was 4,000 gallons, and then in March was the high reading of 21,000 gallons. So the meter was fine for 1, 2, 3 readings, and then there was this 21,000 gallon reading, and now it's back to, I guess, what you'd say would be a normal usage because they just read it again and had no issues, and it's back to 5,000 gallons of usage.
Well, I don't know the answer to this question at this point. I mean, it's usually like, like Jolie said, we don't usually abate it. We will get rid of the interest and penalties, but don't abate it because then we're opening the door and setting a precedent.
I guess I just really haven't got a grasp on those 3 months somewhere after almost 8 or 9 months of good readings, and then all of a sudden something happened. And now the meter's back. It hasn't been changed. It's back reading somewhat correctly. It did the first 7 or 8 months.
Can Si or Jill kind of give us some idea of what might have happened, if anything? I mean, is there any way they can?
So it's hard because it's pretty straightforward procedure.
Right.
You take this, there's a handheld, and then they have this extra device that has everybody's account loaded into it, and they walk house to house and touch each touchpad. And the reader, it registers in this gun and transfers to the other gun. This bigger piece then plugs into my computer where all of those reads are uploaded. And if there's a problem, we look at the problem ones, but his name, since he's gotten his meter fixed, had not been on the problem list. Prior to April of 2019, we had been trying to coordinate with him, and Cyrus finally was able to coordinate with him to get his meter changed out. So, if there was, like I had said, if there was an issue and we had to enter a number manually, I would have obviously been telling you that, and that it would make the most sense to get this sorted. But because everything was super straightforward, there was no concerns from Cyrus and Joe reading it or me loading it into the computer.
And there's no way to get day-to-day usage, right?
Not for that time period, no.
Jennifer, does the gun read? Okay, he has a new meter, and I believe I probably have an old meter. It's only been pinned once years ago. Is there some difference in reading of the old versus the new meter, and could that have been any effect? Maybe I'm just reaching here. I'm just trying to get.
There's no difference in how it reads the meter, but the difference is that if you had an issue and you called, we could use this device to give you a 30-day snapshot of what your water usage looks like. So we could say to you, so like if you called me when you got your June water bill and you said, Jen, my water bill is super high, something must be wrong, then we'd send Cy and Jill so that they could do a previous 30-day snapshot so you could see an hour by hour breakdown of how much water you were using. So then you could say, well, it's 2 a.m. and we are using water and more than flushing the toilet. So that to me would allude to the fact that something else is going on. So it helps try and just kind of give you that extra piece of information that we wouldn't have been able to give you before. So you can't do that with the old meters. So that's why slowly replacing them is what's providing us this extra. But unfortunately, like Mr. Golan has said, it doesn't give you necessarily the entire time frame that you're looking for. So we couldn't pinpoint his specific data for the water read timeframe. We could give him from, I want to say that Jill and I went in April to do it together. So we could have only given him that 30-day timeframe from the day we did it 30 days back.
And how much was that 30-day usage? That seemed to run away on it. The meter was going fast or whatever.
So that was after the water bill had come out. So it didn't, I mean, Valerie, I think, has the report, and maybe she doesn't have it handy, but
that wasn't during the 30 days of the bill. That was after the fact.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't believe I was provided with a report. The only report I have is the one that Mr. Golden prepared.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were in on that.
What's your thoughts? What's your pleasure?
Well, it's not a decimal point because that's only 2,100 gallons, and that's not enough for 3 months unless you weren't there. You said you weren't there for 10 days. Is that correct, Mike?
He did say, he said 9 days, Ian.
9 days he wasn't there. I mean, and that generally accounts for
Sorry,
no
guys.
usage,
8
but
days I was not here.
Okay.
8 days.
That was in February.
So, Jen, this covers January, February, March. Is that right? January, February, March.
Or I guess more like all of December, and then, so December, the previous billing was December 10th, and then the following billing was March 10th. So
Okay.
that time.
So
Sorry.
December 10th, December 11th to March
Baseboard
10th.
hot water.
I believe it was 92 days or 93 days.
Mike, do you have baseboard hot water?
Yes. But it doesn't use water.
You mean you don't leak it out of the system?
No,
Right. Okay.
not 21,000 gallons worth. Maybe 5.
You'd be surprised what a little garden hose just trickling the amount of water we'll use.
I did the math. It's in my report if you want to see it. It would take an average faucet 9.5 days to run full steam to use that much water. Then you'd have to be able to
beyond
drain
what
it.
you normally use.
Beyond what I normally use. It comes out to 10.24 ounces per day leaking out of the house.
10 ounces leaking out of the house a day?
10.24 ounces a day leaking out of the house.
It's got to be more than that.
Yeah. That's a 12-ounce can of soda?
Basically.
Leaking out of the house for that many 21,000 gallons?
Yep.
It's not a very big leak.
For 90 days.
I mean, you're assuming it leaked over 90 days. It could have leaked just in 30 days. I mean, I don't know, but he's averaging it out over the 90 days, Joel.
Right.
That's also saying I have a leak, which I don't.
Yeah. Correct.
I guess I'd be interested to hear from Cy and Jill about it. I just need more information, I think. I mean, I think this is a tough one because, most, at least the ones I've dealt with or ones that I've been on select board meetings with, most complaints, you know why it's happened. And we don't know why it's happened here, and I think and I don't know, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. I think most of the complaints, we do know why it's happened, and that leak has been found somewhere on the property.
For the most recent ones, yes, but I believe Ted came to the board at one point in time requesting something similar because he had an outlier bill, and I don't believe there was abatement granted for that. That was, I don't know if it was at the beginning of Valerie's start or if it was right before she had come, perhaps, but he had,
I do remember that, Jen.
a similar case. you know, and
Then a
he
commercial building.
couldn't identify that either. And like I said, it's nothing against Mr. Golden. It's just purely that we don't know what goes on in the home. So I guess, Ian, my question to you is, what information are you looking for clarification that Jill and Cy could provide so that we can reach out to them and ask them? Because I'd like, if that's what you're going to need to help make the decision, it'd be nice to be able to ask specific question rather than just.
I am going to say on my behalf that if this is not done in my favor, from now on, when I pay my water bill, I'm going to want all the data from my pump for hourly usage day by day.
We can't provide that information.
Then you can't say this is not incorrect.
So why can't that information be provided, Jen? It just isn't recorded?
We just
Is that
don't.
correct?
I mean, we'd have to have Jill and Cy go and read his meter every
day.
Every 30 days.
Right.
Every 30
unless
days,
they have it.
pull the data or something like
Right.
that. So
Is
it's
there
just-
any way to change the software or the data pads to allow that? Is there some software that we can add to our system? Jen, do you know?
No.
I mean, it seems kind of stupid that it only collects the last 30 days.
Well, we were under the impression that it collects more, but every time we've done it, it will only let us collect 30 days. So.
Yeah, I mean, if the town is unable to provide that, given the systems that we have, you do have the option of the system that I use, which is pretty darn accurate. And it is. I mean, it listens to the meter and records, you know, events as they happen, and it's live. You can turn on the water and it immediately tells you that the water is running, and it's designed to detect leaks, especially slow ones. But of course, it doesn't help you in this situation, but it will help you in future situations if there are any.
Ian,
So Jen, Jill and Cy went through the house with Mr. Golden, is that right?
Yeah.
Or just Cy?
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Mr. Golden would have to
Yes,
answer.
they did.
Okay.
You had a question, Mike?
I did, Ian. Does your, say I'm gone to Maine for a week, and if I had one of them flu flumes, whatever you call that thing you have on yours, would it give it to your text? Would it give you a text on your phone?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's correct. You can set up notifications.
You guys read what I sent you? I offered to set up a meter, a calibrated and registered flow meter on my side of the water line. And I'm a failure analysis engineer. This is what I do for a living. I've made a living doing it for 30 years. So if you'd like, I have no problem installing that, and I can send it to the cloud and I can put it on a website. You guys can view it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from anywhere in the world if you'd like to. Good smile. I like the smile. That's good. I'm glad you're laughing. And I'm not kidding. I do it every day, all day long. I set up systems for companies constantly. And I'm more than happy to do it right here. It wouldn't cost me a nickel.
The only problem is it doesn't help us with the bill that is in the past.
Exactly right. That's exactly my argument. When I asked for the data for those 90 days, nobody had it. And I'm like, then now it's, so what do you, it's he said, she said. And there are no leaks.
That's a he said, she said, but it's also computers. I mean, it's not like we have any hands-on in it.
They are not infallible. I also offered to help the town if you guys want to. I am available for hire. I have a side business. I do contract work. I know this has happened to more people than me. Whether or not the other one's proved out or not, I have no idea, but that's not, I don't have that information. But if you have a problem, I can find it.
Well, I guess I'd like to find out from Cy and Jill what they think could have happened before I make a decision. I mean, Mike, I read through your stuff. Some of it, you know, just kind of slides over my head. But, you know, if we have one meter and there is something that could be wrong, I mean, how many more do we possibly have? And how many more of these are we going to get?
That was exactly my argument.
So I'd like to talk to Jill and Cy and get some kind of sense of what they're thinking and, you know, what the chances are of there's something being wrong with this meter and pad or meter, whatever.
Well, it could also be the installation.
Well, I thought of that, Mike, but you told me it was put in on April 19th. And
No, not the date, the actual installation of the unit itself.
Well, the meter was put in.
It is put in on a loop. We have incredibly high water pressure in this town, incredibly high.
Yeah.
And there's no regulator. My house, when I moved into it, like 3 days after I moved in here, the toilet valve blew off in the middle of the night. The water pressure is 100 plus PSI. You know the water hammer that thing is seeing?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, it's put in on a continuous.
You should get your plumber to install on the non-meter.
All been done. It's all, the whole thing got ripped out and replaced. It's all done. Point is that meter is put in on 100 plus side PSI water pressure, and it's getting hammered that's probably 2.5 times that. I'll guarantee it. On a 3/4 inch line feeding off this town, I'll guarantee it. It's 250 plus. I've been doing this for 35 years.
I'm
a mechanical engineer. This is what I do.
Well, I thought
the probability of that meter getting hammered with 250 PSI of water and not only going one way, but going in the opposite direction because it's put in on a loop is very probable.
But you
Mike, hold on a minute. Let Joel talk.
It's a finish. The first 8 months, we had two pretty good readings.
Exactly.
200 gallons of each other. And then we had one that's way off the charts. Now we're having one back to where the first 8 months were.
Exactly.
I can't grab my hands around and stick a finger in it and say, that's done, that's it, that's the problem. It could be that meter.
It could very well be. It could be a lot of different things. It could be that a decimal point got transposed in the data somehow. There could be a lot of issues, but nobody could provide me with any of that, so I can't find anything. Right. I would have found it for you if somebody had provided me all this data, but I don't have it. And when I asked for it, I couldn't get it, and nobody's got it. But what I can provide you with is the fact that there are no leaks in my home. All the plumbing is brand new. All the appliances are brand new. They're all energy saving and water saving.
As of when?
As of like 2 months after I moved in.
That was sometime in April then.
5 years ago.
Or how many years ago?
Like 5.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Michelle. I'd like to have more information from scientists about the water system. I'd also like to find out in terms of the rounding up that it does. Like how does that? I'm just curious about that.
I'd also like to know that myself.
I'd like to at least see another reading. Maybe it won't be in this calendar year. It'll be probably what, Jennifer, September? I'm not want to drag this on, but if we had 2 more within those 6,000 to 7,000 gallons and 90-day usage, you got to look at that meter and say something screwed up and why you had.
Right, but you also have to look at it in the same time frame, which was in the dead of winter. In the summertime, not only are you going to be using more water because you're washing cars, you're doing other things with the hose, you're doing stuff outside, so you would expect it to be 30, 40, 50% higher, maybe even, let's say 30, 35% on average than a normal bill. So it is going to be higher. I would expect it to be higher. In the dead of winter, all the faucets are turned off outside. There's nobody running hoses. You're not doing anything like that. So it should be lower, which it did go down. The first reading was down to $62, whatever that converts to in gallons. I don't know. I have not done the math.
Okay. So Michelle, we're gonna wait a while on this?
Yeah, I'd like to talk to Cy and Jill.
At least, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what specific information are you looking from them so that I could reach out to them and ask them what specific questions they're trying to answer?
I want to understand what the walkthrough did, what possibly could have happened with the reading, with the meter. Could there be something wrong with the meter or the pad or the reading of it? Why would we have 3 months and then one big.
Right.
And if they tell,
Also,
okay.
Okay.
Jennifer, I'd like to know, it's possible, I know how they snap that thing onto the side of the house and it gives a reading. Is it's a little crooked or whatever, will that give a false reading or a different reading? Or we'll just say doesn't compute, you know, and have to
Right.
read it.
It yells at you if there's an error, and then they
Okay.
have to touch it again. So they know immediately on the spot if it doesn't have a good reading.
Yeah, and also the explanation about how the 3 months is calculated and why it's a rounded up number.
Well, I don't know if they'll know that. I'd have to research through it's through the computer
Is that-
system, not anything that
Okay.
they do.
Okay, because that plays a part in the accuracy. If I have a device that reads and tells me one thing, and I get my bill and it says exactly 8,000, that can't be true. There has to be some sort of variance in that. And if my device that I have says I've used 500 gallons less, why is there a discrepancy in that? Is it my device?
Maybe.
Is it something?
Exactly, and this bill was actually a rounded number. It was like 21,000 or 23,000 gallons even. So, but obviously something is being done in the computer program. Something's being done when it converts to a CSV or when it goes through its algorithm to compute the, you know, whatever simple program it has to compute the number of gallons from that electrical pulse that it sees out of that meter. That there's a roundup. It's very likely.
I think there always is a roundup, but I'd like to know why there is a roundup.
Me too.
Okay. So we need more information. So we'll table this until we get that information, and Mike will get back in touch with you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Have a good night.
All right, have a good night.
And maybe we can bring in Jill inside just on a call at one of our meetings, just to sort of talk back and forth.
Okay, can we move on? Okay, coronavirus, COVID-19 update, preparations, response, and impacts to municipal operations.
There's not a whole lot new to report since the last meeting. The plexiglass has been installed. It looks amazing. The interior drop box is installed and it works great. The exterior drop box is going to be repurposed as a pickup box. And if it hasn't been installed already, there's going to be a sign to distinguish it from the other box. Other than
What
that,
box did you end up going with?
coming along. What was that?
What box did you end up going with? The one that you researched? I know that Joel was looking at one or going to recommend one.
No, we went with the one that Sharon had found.
Okay, and that's working as you needed to.
It seems to be, yes. It's larger, it's more secure, it's accessible easily from the inside.
Right.
Jen, do you have anything to add?
So we did get, I'm sure Valerie told you this because this has been a little while now, but we got the phone upgrade.
Okay.
So we had been talking and potentially considering, and we wanted to talk to you all about was going to an automated. So when you call 2410, you and Valerie and I had talked about this, I think when she had first arrived, and at that point in time, I think because of the newness, we thought that it might not work. But now that we have people here for almost 3 years now, yay, it might be better to, you call 2410 and it's thanks for calling the town of Bristol. Office hours are Monday to Friday 8 to 4:30. If you're looking to speak with so-and-so, press 1.
So you want an auto attendant?
Yeah, and
You
just
wanna-
see if we can try to disperse some calls, especially right now with people kind of, working from different locations. I think it's a little bit more helpful to us because then we don't have to go through this full-blown explanation as to why Valerie's not in the office. They can just get her voicemail. She can retrieve her voicemail. She can call them back. But we didn't want to just change it over and then have one of you call and be in thinking that the office was closed or something along those lines. So we're just kind of looking for some feedback. And I think we were thinking not using people's names, just using positions with the idea that then if people came and went, it didn't necessarily matter. We wouldn't have to update the auto attendant because we would say if you're looking to speak to the town administrator, press 1. If you're looking to speak to the zoning administrator, press 2. The listers,
Mhm.
press 3. So that it's just a generic, and then we kind of have a catch-all kind of at the end, like if you're looking for clerk, treasurer, water help, etc., plus press whatever. And then that way, then that would ring 2410 and we would answer. But then calls that were specifically for Valerie or specifically for Chris or the listers could kind of get right to them quickly. And we had talked to Chris about it today and just had said that then we'd have to make sure that everybody would update their voicemail to put accurate office hours on there, so that, you know, if they hit my voicemail and it was, you know, 2:30 or 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, which is not normally when I'm there, they would know that I'm not going to potentially return their phone call until the next day.
Mhm. Joel?
Just, Jennifer, is there going to be, I like that concept, because then Sharon doesn't, or you have to answer the phone and I'll say, is Valerie? And yeah, hold on, let me, or the list, is Chris in? But
right,
if the phone's ringing and somebody's there, are we going to have one of them say, if you want to speak to a live person, or press 0 to speak to the
I
operator?
think we're thinking like a catch-all, Joel. So like if you just have a general inquiry or question about, you know, for the clerk or the treasurer, or, you know, just kind of something like some kind of general inquiry option, that it would ring 2410 and someone would be there.
If I don't know who I need to speak to, please dial 0.
Right.
So nobody would pick up the phone even though they're standing there and say, hello, how can I help you? When all the other options are gone. You know, I might want to know what time's the office open so I can run down and pay my taxes, or what time is the dog license due.
Right.
And how much?
Yeah, I mean, we had talked about just making it a different number other than 0, so people couldn't surpass the menu option and just be hitting 0 right from the get-go.
Right.
And, you know, like, I know that's the first thing I do when I'm on the phone and I hear a menu option. I just start pressing 0 because I want to talk to a person.
Right.
And so we were thinking about making it like having an option like that, but making it so that someone could just press a specific number and still get, you know, like you said, asking that kind of general inquiry type question.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to know that that the auto attendant doesn't direct people to voicemail automatically, just directs them to the direct line.
Right.
So the phone will ring in that person's office and they pick it up and say hello. And if the person's not at their desk, then it goes to voicemail.
Now, does this phone system have the capability of forwarding the calls to your cell phone?
I think so. I've been trying to figure it out a little bit with Chris Merchant. I haven't been quite as on top of it, but maybe Bruce can speak to this because I think he has this ability, and so maybe it's a specific app or something. But Bruce has this part down.
No, if they leave a voice message, it gets forwarded to our email, and we have our phone setup so it comes to our email comes to our phones.
Okay.
But a direct call, I don't know about that.
Oh, okay. Because I know there is an app that you can
the doorbell app.
Ah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's part of this phone system?
No, that's
something separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Jen, it might be good to ask the guy though, because I know our phone, I can't do it myself, but the people that do the phones, they can enter my cell phone number in the back end, you know, and then as soon as they call my extension, it immediately goes to my cell phone instead. So I think there might be a way. You might not be able to physically do it yourself.
No, that's a
But
good.
I also have a button on my phone that can just say, I can say forward calls rather than having them do it every time for me. So,
Especially with this work at home, that's what all of our loan officers, people who are working remotely, I can call their extension, their 4-digit extension in the office, and it goes right to their home.
Yeah, our office has that capability. It's part of the software. So my guess is it probably does do it, Jen. You just have to figure it out if people want that capability.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with you guys doing the auto attendant.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I have a couple things. You'd want to find out like what you can do with the system, how much you can do it where you're not having to sort of maybe use your own voice if it's a voice an automatic voice that you can like tell it to say certain things. I don't know if it has that ability. Then you're easily able to change it. I think it's okay with the idea of just saying town administrator, but it is kind of nice to hear the name. And often there's like a dial by name directory on phone systems too. I think it is nice to have if you don't know the name of the administrator or the clerk, to have the name
Maybe
there.
just not use my name.
No, I think that's fine. I mean, it would be up to you, but something where like look at the system and see what it can do. And then I think whatever you do, I think you should spend time designing the hierarchy of how you go and test it. And I'd like to see that as you design that. Don't just sort of like do a couple like ideas like here's, we'll just go to 0, go to this. I think similar to a website, you want to design it so it actually makes sense and you don't want to frustrate people, because the main thing that frustrates me the most is just the speed of some of these. And I don't know what the speed is of this, but if I'm waiting for like 5 minutes to go through a whole bunch of things, like I'm just going to be frustrated. So I think writing down like exactly what you want to be heard and how quickly you can get to those options, I think will really help. And if you're able to maybe design that and then maybe send it out, and I'm willing to work on that just because I do that kind of stuff anyway, and sort of user interface kind of things.
I know
willing
it
to look
is
at
a
that,
recording, like it's our own voice recording. So we have to, so what I have done in the past when I've had to do this is I kind of type out the script so that I don't forget to say anything, because I'm always going to forget something when I start. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And then I get, too into it. And then I always forget something. But the way that Sharon and I had briefly talked about it today, when I had said, was there something we were talking about that we wanted to talk to the board about? And then it was like, oh, the phones. Was like, there wasn't going to be that many options. Like it was really like Valerie, Chris, the listers, and like, then us.
Treasurer, the clerk.
But like that's gonna all come, but we're gonna all be lumped into kind of one, because Sharon and I answer each other's calls regularly anyway. So it's not like treasurer phone calls are only gonna come into my office, because if they need a tax amount, Sharon can answer that question, or Gail can answer that question. It doesn't necessarily always have to be me. And if they need a lister card or want to see what the unrecordeds are, I can answer that question, or Sharon or Gail. So we want to try to make sure that there is still some personal touch to it, with the idea that there is the ability to like speak to somebody and not have to wait 20 minutes to listen. Or my favorite is like press 1 and then press 6 and then press 7 and then press 2 and then like, no, it's just, you're going to press the number and you're going to start ringing at that person's desk, and then either they're going to answer it or it's going to go to voicemail. Was the thought on that?
Okay. I would like at least it not to. I hate the ones where start spelling the person's name that you're trying to, So you're looking at the phone. A, B, and C is one, and yeah.
No.
What happens if they know the name, but they don't know what department they're with?
I mean, we can transfer. We can still do the transfer. Yeah. So if they call and they think it's just a small, question, and then it ends up developing into something more, and that's really a Chris question, then we can say, you really need to leave a voicemail for Chris. Can we put you into his voicemail?
Yeah.
Same thing for Valerie. So there's still it doesn't take the ability away from us to be able to transfer into other people's voicemails. Right. It just hopefully allows people, like when Valerie's expecting a phone call, for them to kind of just directly get to Valerie or directly get to Chris, instead of having to wade through us. Because sometimes we can't get to the phone because it's busy. We're either on another phone call, we're helping somebody at the counter, we're helping somebody in the vault. Like there's just a lot of things going on. And so if they can get directly to the person that they need to get to, I think it's solving a lot more problems than having the phone continue to ring and ring and ring.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so if you can write your script and then send it to us just for feedback, similar to if I'm putting something on the website, just so everyone knows and is on the same page, I think that would be useful. And just like do a couple rounds and see how people feel about it, and then do the recording.
Absolutely.
Get your theatrical voice on.
I was hoping you would do that, Ian.
Okay. Anything else on the coronavirus, COVID-19?
So we're keeping offices closed just by appointment only, correct?
Correct.
And we're going to keep doing Zoom. we're going to keep doing Zoom meetings. The question was brought up 2 weeks ago whether we would begin to meet in person since the numbers are higher, or we would continue doing Zoom. And I don't think we actually talked about that. So I was just
Well, I think because he extended the emergency order to July 15th, we're doing Zoom meetings at least through then.
Okay.
See what he says. But he seemed to be working out for everybody at this point. Just as long as we all remember to go in and sign the warrants. And did the warrants get signed and the resolution get signed, Jen?
That's not my fault. I'm sorry. Feel free
I haven't been
to
in. I'm
angrily
sorry.
feel free to email me multiple times. I'm totally very sorry about that.
Okay, I'll be in. I'll try to be in tomorrow, Jen, to sign this week. Okay. Village paving and Main Street sidewalk project updates.
So hopefully folks had a chance to look at the notes that Natalie had sent around. Basically, the leveling course is completed. The temporary lines are done. They'll be working on the evening hours will include the curbing and prepping of the sidewalks only through Thursday. Daytime crew will be installing guardrails at various locations throughout the project, only on Monday, today, and tomorrow and Wednesday. No day work is scheduled for Thursday and Friday. And you may have seen the communications between VTUMS and VTrans, or the contract about the valve boxes and making sure that they remain accessible and repaired through this project. So that's been a bit of a challenge.
And are they progressing to fix them?
Yeah, have you heard anything on that?
Not anything since last week.
Okay, so I'll let you know that I'm going to send a letter off to Natalie about those stupid little stickies that I pick up every green up day that I think they should have to pick up. I mean, to me, that's littering, but they don't ever pick them up. And if they leave it through the winter, then they get snowplow off to the side of the road. And I just don't understand why they can't take them off once they're doing the lining. But so just so you know, that's going. Eric?
They are actually supposed to pick them up after they stripe the final coat.
Yeah, I know they are, but they never do.
They never do. No, you're absolutely right, but they are supposed to.
Yeah. Joel?
I did speak to Cy on Thursday about the valve boxes down through, Maine and West, all of them where they've been ground. I sent him a few pictures, and he came to see me, and he says they have plenty of the risers and ready to go. They just got to ask for them. And I says, I don't want to see the same mistake as we had on North Street, where there still some of them aren't put in. Sorry, Eric, but I said, Cy, if those aren't in, I don't know what we're going to do, but they've been ground all around them. You need to chip them out and put the new risers in. So I don't care if you have to order 100 and you only use 75 of them. Get them. So, he said he had plenty.
So I don't have anything else to add. Ian, do you have anything to add?
Question with the risers. Now that they've done the milling, is there any chance that they're going to destroy more of the water areas, or are they done destroying it and they're just replacing stuff now?
It's my understanding that they're done destroying them, and now is the time to make sure that we know where they are and that they get repaired and replaced
before they put the final paving on.
Absolutely, yeah, and they can't do it now because they need to wait and see what the final elevation is going to be. Is what I was told.
Okay. So if everything had worked properly, they would have been in communication with VTUMS and would have pulled before doing any grinding every area that they needed to remove instead of grinding over the top. Is that right?
No, the old ones are paved in, and they ground around them, and then they'll chip them out and put the new ones in after they do the final paving to the right height.
Okay. Nothing else to add. We had a good meeting on Thursday or Friday? Thursday. Just a little last Thursday, a little check-in meeting. I think which went really well. Just sort of giving feedback and asking questions. We talked about the how they're going to do the sidewalks. We had a complaint from a downtown property owner just in terms of the ramps and the access in front of a few of the buildings, mainly Kimball's, Bristol Suites, and Vermont Marketplace, because the ramps had been there for well over a week. They sort of stopped doing the sidewalk stuff because balancing out night work and then I think working for Jen's. But they were back, so they've done maybe like half of the sidewalks now. It's still, every other as they pour, and so the access is still difficult, but it's getting better. And so they're hoping to work on the south side before they do in front of the bank on the north side, just because it requires taking out the entire sidewalk. They can't have it and only have half a sidewalk open, whereas on the south side they can sort of do that as they replace. So I think they're trying to get the south side done and then open, and then they can close off the north side by the bank to enable them to do that and pull that out. But that's still all set and ready to go. I've been taking photos and posting them on the Bristol Core Facebook page just to keep people updated. And I think we've had good response both from those updates that I do every couple of days, and also just posting Natalie's email that she sends. I take that and I put it on the town Facebook page. I put it on the Bristol Core Facebook page and on the town website. And people have good response from that. So I think people are appreciative they're getting the updates in various areas, which is good. So, and I haven't heard of any complaints recently from residents or business owners regarding the project. So I think everything's going well.
Okay, just a shout out to Bruce, because I saw him out there filling in holes on some of the ramps. I was like, what is he doing?
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
One thing I would add is we did get a very preliminary construction schedule, the first one we've seen this afternoon. And without going into specifics, if things stay on track without any surprises, we're looking at probable completion by the end of August.
The way they're going, it looks like they're going to be done before that, but
yeah, they could.
Yeah. That would be good
the
news.
details are there. Some of it just is some time passes before they do sort of the final part. So you're right. So some of the things we will see completed, especially on Main Street, fingers crossed, and then it's just sort of the final little pieces that will come sort of weeks down the line.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Valerie.
All right.
Valerie, couple things, Michelle.
Yeah, go ahead.
The water that was always standing by Champlain Farms off our sidewalk, that's going to get taken care of.
The water that was doing what?
Remember the water
Puddling in front of Champlain
by
Farms.
Champlain Farms?
Well, that actually got fixed by Champlain Farms somewhat, but I think the V-Trans folks initially said they could fix it with some grading, but then they were doubtful about that. But we will see how that goes. I have not checked in with them on that question in quite a while. In the meantime, the Champlain Farms folks added asphalt to it and filled it in.
Well, I think they pushed the puddle out a little bit farther, but I'm not sure they fixed it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure they fixed it.
Yeah.
In the meetings that we.
Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say that for that question, Joel, in the meetings that we had, they're supposed to fix it. The grading that they can do as much as they go towards Champlain Farms buildings, they said that they should be able to grade and have the water run around the corner and down South Street.
That's what they told us initially. And then
right. No, I know.
Sometime after that said, I hate to say this, but we're not sure that we can do that. So I don't have a clear answer on that.
And then what about the water? I know it's been a concern of the highway department coming off the creamy stand. It puddles there, or there's quite a stream when we get a heavy rain there. Before it gets down, there's no drainage on that side headed west from the drain up by Cecil Foster's. You know where I'm talking about, Eric?
Yeah, there's a drain right on the end of Creamy Stand's parking lot, right there before the green apartment building.
Right. There's a drain there, and that's the last one. And there's the Creamy Stand parking lot is quite so high. I see they've ground it down some. They've ground about 3 feet into the parking lot. I wonder if
when they come through there and pave it, hopefully if everything goes right, it should be a nice, straight, smooth line and the water should run, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay.
And Joel, I did follow up with Chris Lavalette about the question you asked about the topsoil on East Street. I haven't gotten a response yet.
Okay. That's probably already been sold up to that pit to the north of us. Probably been put through the Grizzler and sold already. So I think it might be coming back.
No, you gotta take in mind, Joel, that's state right away.
That was a state topsoil was put down. It was put down by the water department when we did all of West Street. That's what concerns me. That's what concerns me, Eric. No ifs, ands, or buts, Eric. That's what concerns me.
What do you mean? Wait.
Sold by the water department.
You're talking about the topsoil they took up on East Street?
West Street, all the way down.
No, East Street.
East Street, they can have it. And well, Masterson put some down through there too.
Oh.
Well, it'd be no different than we going down ditching in front of somebody's yard on Carlstrom Road that just redid their lawn over.
Right.
It's the landowner's material. If the landowner doesn't want it, then we can take it, being it's in our right of way.
Right.
So if the landowner didn't want it on West Street, it reverts back to the state right of way and reverts back to the state.
Yeah. You have a difference of opinion than I do. That was bought by water department funds. And
I realize that
issue down through there of about $700,000 between doing all the drainage and Munson. Munson's all their work, shitty as it was. No offense.
Yep.
We bought all that. That wasn't any state money there. That should be all our topsoil.
I realize that, but like I said, it'd be like going in front of your house. You put a new lawn out to the road, we go and ditch it. If you want the material, you can have it. If you don't want it, we're going to take it.
Right.
It's no different.
Yeah. We'll leave it as we disagree.
You agree to disagree.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Can
You're
we
on
move on to
vacation.
the next thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Sullivan Powers and Company contract.
I make a motion, we hire Sullivan Powers for the estimate for the audit for 2020.
Jen, is this the same amount that they were last year? Has it gone? How much has it gone up?
$5,600.
Oh, yeah. All I had to do was read. I hate their letters. It's like reading their contract is like, oh, give me a break. Just give me a one-pager, will you?
Like a bunch of lawyers wrote it up.
I tell you, lawyers and accountants.
Are we happy with theirs?
For
Go on, Valerie, sorry.
2019, it was 19,400, and then the year before that, it was 19,100. So it's been slowly edging up, but the last few years, they found that they've had to eat a lot of time and resources because the audits took a lot longer than they expected.
Is that a dig on you, Jen, from them saying we aren't doing our job, or is that them
There's a
just
lot
being?
going on. There's a lot going on in town, so a lot of projects, a lot of details.
Good, Joel.
A question on that, Valerie. When we like a pass-through grants, I know when Sullivan Powers, when it's an independent grant, they have to do a little more auditing, right, Jen?
If you go over if you get federal funding that's over $750,000, you have to have a single audit.
All right. So let's say something like Northern Border thing there, that with the Stony Hill Park or whatever ones, that it's kind of a pass-through for us, but another.
We'll get tagged, so we'll have to have a single audit. We'll get tagged, so we'll have to have a single audit.
So do we pass that tag on to them?
No.
No. So we're eating that. So that's our contribution, really.
Well, that really shouldn't be our contribution.
No. Thank you, Michelle.
This amount is not a single audit amount. This is just a regular annual audit amount.
I think that's just something we should keep, as you guys as administrators should keep on, is something like the people who came with the elderly housing up on Mountain Street, and that was going to be a pass-through grant. You just say, if this requires a single audit, then we expect money from your grant to come pay for that audit. I think that should be we should have that conversation sometime about that when the full board
A lot of programs do allow that to be included in the project budget as an
Okay.
expense.
It's good.
Yeah, and there might be opportunity to still negotiate that point with Stony Hill in the case of that grant project, because they understand that that the town is contributing quite a lot in just administering the project, but that they're on the hook for the dollars.
Okay, thank
Still
you.
some opportunity there.
Okay, so Joel made a motion. We got a second?
Before I second, are we happy with their service?
I mean, so they've been auditing for us for almost, I want to say 12 years now. We've gone through a couple of different accountants and CPAs, which is fine. So I think some of that is just a change in what everybody wants. Everybody wants a little something different. So this will be our third year with the same CPA. So her and I had the discussion about being confident in the fact that this year we should be able to hopefully, you know, all these kind of loose ends that we've had and had to deal with over the last few years with changeover and projects and everything else, we feel like we've finally got like a good grasp on kind of what's going on, and that you know, hopefully us working together will make it, you know, make it happen and be less of a tag on their end as far as what they're having to write off, I guess.
Okay. So you don't see the need to look for another.
I don't,
firm.
because at this point, I think 5,600 looks a lot better than putting it out to bid and potentially making it higher. You know, Valor and I had discussed, it was a little bit of a bummer that they couldn't have told us like in December or January, so we could have budgeted for that amount. So, you know, I had talked to, not to Fred, but I did talk to the CPA that we work with, and I just said, you know, it would have been nice to know this a little bit sooner so we could have planned for that. And she said, yeah, we had a little bit going on in our end, and so that's why we didn't get out to you sooner. So
then maybe you should have said to him, Jen, can you hold off? Then can we hold off on the increase until next budget year?
Well, yes, I agree, but when he told me how much money they'd written off, I kind of had to say $5,600 sounds like a lot better than you billing me for your excess.
Okay.
I
All
want
right,
to
I'll
tell him
second Bill's motion.
his poor planning is not our fault.
Be careful about that, Joel. We sometimes have poor planning.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, appointment of Bill Sayer as alternate Bristol representative to the Addison County Regional Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye, whatever.
Actually, I have discussion. So I saw Katie and asked her about speaking to her board about a main person from their board. Have you heard back from her regarding that?
I had a chat with her as well, and she, I forget how we left it, because Bill Sayer was the planning commission's rep on that board, and I think she was going to, at a next upcoming meeting, check in with a couple of people to see if they'd be interested and have the time to do it.
Yeah, I recommended that she have at least one of her board be take Bill's place. And obviously Katie in her real job works there, but that we can't use that. We need to have hopefully one of the board members sort of solely focused on reporting back.
That would be a conflict for her.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's follow up with her and see, because I know they've had a meeting. I didn't see that on the agenda, but perhaps she talked about it.
Okay. Are we good to move on? Did we vote? Did we vote?
I don't think we voted.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, approval of May 26, June 8, and June 15 meeting minutes. I sent Val any changes I had. which were very minor.
Yeah, I thought that all looked
Eric
fine.
with an A on the end. Eric Kokoda.
Oh,
Eric Dakota.
Yeah.
We're gonna call you that from now on.
That's right. Well, Eric
Okay.
Dakota's on vacation, so Eric Dakota steps in for him.
Okay, so somebody want to make a motion to approve the
I'll make a
minutes
motion to
with
approve the
minor
minutes.
changes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Second. With
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Say aye. Okay. Any opposed?
Is that
Okay.
for all of them?
That's for all of them. Yes, Tasha.
Okay.
Okay.
Michelle, you
All
didn't
right.
have any. You didn't have any changes on the June 8th.
I don't know. I know I had changes on 2 of them, and one of them I did not.
Right, that was June 8th.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Authorized accounts payable warrant and any liquor license. I don't have the number. Does someone? Tasha, do you have the number?
I
Okay.
emailed it to her.
Okay. All right. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Select board roundtable. Joel, we'll go with you first.
Oh, a couple of things. I gotta, Bruce, I asked months ago, maybe I was even chair then, have we got the cages in the cars yet?
We have one vehicle that has a partial cage and the other does not.
Okay. And,
They're not required.
they're not required, but we have,
Do we have the what? I'm
do
sorry.
we have them in our presence? We haven't ordered them yet?
We have some older ones in the garage.
Oh, okay. And I know last year you had a busy year. You've had a busy year. It doesn't seem to slow down for you.
No,
And
it has not.
just get appointed. And with our former sergeant, you had a couple of right back to back on a family with untimelies. Have you got the paperwork now so you can investigate untimely deaths?
Yes.
You can sign off on those? Good.
Yes.
I knew you had to do some paperwork and stuff, but I just want to make sure. Now with the other new guys on, I don't know if they could do that, so.
No, right now I'm the only one.
Okay. Alrighty. And how's the new guy working, Andrew? I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Very good. Very well.
Good.
That's Andrew. Who's the newest new one?
Josh Turner.
Oh,
Josh.
Josh Turner is the newest
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Newest.
Okay.
And he's part-time.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all I have, Michelle.
Okay. Ian?
Question for Bruce. I love the speed sign coming in on North Street. I actually really like what it tells you as you're approaching. Gives you sort of various warnings. What's the potential for getting them on East and West Street? I know that you like to put out the portable one, but I think it's a useful tool to have, a permanent one, or the portable one. The permanent one is great, especially with the language that comes up as you sort of approach. I'd love to see them on North and East. And I know we've talked about that in the past, but I
You
want to
mean
get
East
your
and
thoughts.
West?
Yes.
You said North and East, so I can use
No, we
West.
have them on North, East and West, yes.
And Bruce, can we actually put them up there? Or is that we would have to get permission from the state, since it's supposedly our road, but the state road?
I will research it. I have another one here. I was waiting for the construction to finish before we install.
Do we need to coordinate with the construction, or can we just, it's okay just to install? We'd want to decide what placement.
Now, we don't have to coordinate with them. I was just going to wait till they were
Okay.
finished. So we wouldn't be putting a post in, another post in the ground that could, interfere with what they're doing.
Right. And do we know that's going to go on East Street? Is that correct?
That's where I plan on putting the next one. Yes, East Street.
Okay, great. I think that'll be a terrific addition.
East Street
and
going
then
in
the
or
other-
East Street coming out?
Coming in.
Damn.
Good. That's a long stretch. The only other thing I had, so I put on the website the 2021 calendar for the select board, and I've done a little bit of updates to sort of strike throughs of what we've discussed. I also put on the current and future and completed goals, and I've updated that. I just wanted to double check and I ask a few questions I've added in progress just sort of COVID to the town plan being updated subdivision, since that's all in progress. It's the same thing with the Main Street lighting. Completed is the police union contract review. I think that's done now, correct?
Yes.
And there's also the enhanced energy plan. I'm asking Andrew LaRoe to get a final copy of that. I believe that was approved by the Planning Commission. So that's completed. I'm going to get that plan on the Planning Commission and on the Energy Committee page. I didn't know if there were any others, and maybe Valerie and you and I can sort of look at this offline, just to some of those where the status doesn't have anything just because it was sort of a new thing that we put up. Maybe you and I can sort of talk about and see if there are others that I can just sort of update, just so it shows if someone was looking at those, they can see. And I see what's going on. And also I've linked to some of the things like the Main Street lighting, the paving through the village, the Stony Hill sidewalk project. Those are all linked too. So if someone goes to this and looks at sort of the projects that we're working on, it'll then take them to the corresponding webpage where hopefully they can get more updates. So maybe you and I can talk about that sometime this week.
Okay, cool. A couple things. Val, I'm betting that you didn't get any dates on the bus tour because I totally spaced it. So did anybody else respond to Val?
I was
with
just going to
dates?
ask that. I haven't gotten a date to get the bus yet.
No, yeah, I was waiting to see what dates you might have windows of opportunity for, Joel. Or
I could this time of year and get most any time now. No school in session.
Oh, okay.
I was going to get that little 32 passenger one they got. They'll spread us
So
out.
we should come up with a date first then, and then you can find out if it's available.
Yeah.
Right. Can we do a doodle poll or something like that now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
When's Eric back from vacation? That was the driving force of it last time.
After July 5th.
Okay, there you go. So after July 5th.
Okay. I also read the report on the dump evaluation. I see we have to replace water well M101. Isn't this like the second or third time?
No, it's the same one. We just haven't done it yet.
Okay. All right. Is
Yeah,
that
we
in
started
that?
it last year? She provided an estimate, I think, of about $1,900
Okay.
to replace the pump, and the select questions about it. And I think this was in December, and just other things got in the way, and it kind of moved off to the side.
Okay. But we had we budgeted for that? That's part. No, we didn't. Okay. Ian, I wanted to ask you, the picnic tables, did you have somebody go take them apart? Did you find somebody willing to do that? What's that?
No.
Meredith did that.
Meredith did that? Oh, because I was going to say, I saw somebody tearing them apart. Okay. So are they going to put them back together then too?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
they're about halfway through.
You're off the hook, Jolie.
Good.
Um,
Going to still bring yours down? I want to pick it up tomorrow night.
yeah. Eric, I know you're on vacation, so you may not know the answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. Where they fixed the water line, and Val, you can jump in. Are they going to repave that? Or are they waiting for them to do the village, or are they waiting to make sure it's fixed? I mean, it's kind of packed, but it's kind of got you a divot in the front of it, divot in the back, and a hill in the middle.
Yeah, Jill sent an email out to Randy, and Randy Snelling, which is the one that's in charge up on the state road there, he really wants it paved now, sooner than later. Jill reached out to Hutchinson, tried to get him to coordinate when they did the shim, and they didn't do it. So Randy suggested DNF, and so the last email I got was Jill asking Randy the contact information for DNF.
Okay.
Was Pike an option?
It is an option, and as far as I know, Mike was supposed to go down and measure it.
And I guess there was a question about timing, about when he would be available to do it, and that's when Randy got concerned that it really needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Oh, because if he was planning on doing it when we were going to pave, we weren't going to be paving until probably that week that I come back from vacation, or the week after is when we're going to be paving ours.
Joel,
And I
did you have
think
something?
What's that?
Oh, I thought Joel had a question.
Oh.
Do when Eric gets done.
Okay.
Eric really answered it. I did talk to, Jill called me on Thursday about Randy's been, Snelling from the state AOT's been after him about getting that done. And when they were, Hutchins, he wanted them to go when they were finished shimming East Street just to drive the paver up there and do that section. Obviously that got missed, she said. And now she's reaching out to DNF or somebody else. And so Eric, I was wondering, I thought we were going to pave Lover's Lane like a couple weeks in June here. And we're in our last week, so it's not going to happen until you get back.
Right, it probably won't happen until I get back.
It's no big
What's
deal.
that?
Capital. Just Lower Notch, or I mean just Lover's Lane, or going to do the Notch
No,
Road?
Lover's Lane and Notch Road.
And Notch Road.
Notch Road is ready to go right now. And so they're moving on to Lover's Lane. I think Kale said this week.
I think some done
should be
tonight.
ready to go. Huh?
I think some was done tonight, a little bit.
Okay, so they started it.
I had to
All
go
right,
look
so-
at. I had to go look at Upper Notch or Lower Notch Road for a certain.
Okay. Yeah, so that shouldn't take more than a week down there, 10 days, and then that'll be ready. So I'm saying probably that first week I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, so my other paving question is, Eric, you know when I think it was one of the Hills trucks went overboard on Meehan Road?
Then what?
One of the Hills trucks lost their brakes and tipped over on Meehan Road. It put huge gouges in the pavement at the top of the hill there. So I wondered if we could get them filled in. And can we like ship them the bill?
Whereabouts was that, Michelle?
Just by Grace's house, right at the top there. They were coming down the hill, lost their brakes or something or other, and he tipped it on the side and dug up the pavement that you guys put in there.
Oh, I didn't know anything about that.
When did that happen?
When did that happen?
God, within the last month, I want to say. I don't know. When you come off vacation or send Kale up, you can come find them.
Okay. I can do that. I'll send them up with some patch probably then.
Yeah. But send the bill that I think it was the Hills trucks that they were chopping hay. But,
okay.
Okay. That's all I had.
Well, I have a couple more things. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Ian.
I was going to ask about the lamp posts. Any inventory been done on those? I saw Kale a few weeks ago when I was dropping the old flower baskets off near them. We chatted for a bit, but I wasn't sure if he's done an inventory yet.
I have not followed up with Cal yet on that.
Okay. I mean, I don't think there's any priority to get those sold. And also, too, one question I had, as you head out of down 116 on East Street, there's been a bunch of trimming of trees, which I think is probably Green Mountain Power. For some reason, they've left a bunch of trees that are just branchless, and it looks like some apocalyptic setting. Can we ask them or figure out why that was done and have that maybe fixed? Because I think it looks terrible as you come into Bristol. It looks like it's a mistake, and they've just trimmed trees completely of branches, and it's just the bare tree. I don't know why they've left them there.
I think they did it on purpose to maintain the roots in the hillside, so if it rains, it doesn't wash away. I think that's why they did it. I mean, we can confirm that, but my guess is they aren't taking them out for that reason. But I don't know that.
It just looks terrible.
I
Does
saw
look
it
really
too, Ian. I
funny.
thought they were well out of the right of way.
Yeah, I don't know.
The power lines are along the river.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going across or something. I
No,
couldn't
they're
tell what
moving
they
them
were
all
doing.
onto the other side because when
Oh,
we
they
had
are?
the flood, it took all the power lines out.
Oh, okay.
So they're moving them all
Ah.
to the other side of the road.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're in the
Well, I
right
guess
right
if,
or
yeah,
wrong.
I mean, if
but
the yeah,
it
if we
does,
want
it looks
the bank
funny.
there, we probably need the trees. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's all. Thanks.
And you know, I did, Ian, you mentioned the light poles, and actually Dan Shepard, who's one of the higher ups for the district of Chittenden and Addison County for AOT, I asked him if his ears were ringing the other night because I was mentioning the light pole on the bridge that hasn't been replaced in 5 years. He said they can't get those anymore. So they were wondering if we would give them one, even though it doesn't match quite the top for the bridge, for one of the bridges there. And I said, well, I can ask the board.
Completely different style and a different color. The ones on the bridge are black and these ones are green.
Well, they make paint every day, Valerie. It's better than nothing. Half a loaf of bread's better than nothing if you're starving to death. A lamppost looks better than nothing there. He says they think they can use the top, but they can't none of the guts or anything. So I said I would pass it on and check with Eric and Ian. I said, but Eric's on vacation until September or October, so he won't be back. I said, but just check with him. So we're not asking a lot of money on him. I think we could probably let one go, but I can't speak for the board.
I'd like to do a mock-up of what that might look like. Maybe I have a photographs of the lamppost anyway. Maybe I could just stick it on the bridge on a pic photo. I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree with Valerie that it is a completely different lamppost. Maybe painting it black, you wouldn't notice, but I don't know, that it might look a little odd.
Yeah, the top is different.
Now,
Yeah,
when we
but-
talked about this a while back at a staff meeting, you mentioned, and others mentioned too, that this had been explored and that we were told that it couldn't be done because of work over the river or something.
They have a basket truck that he said can reach down around and do that now.
Oh,
Well, the one that they use to inspect under bridges, it's like a boom truck. So, you guys want just one bridge with 5 lights on instead of, I think that looks odd more than all 6 of them up there.
Well, Ian, you do the mock-up and then we can decide.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I can do that.
Well, it's really not our decision. It's theirs. If they can get a light, they'll come put it up. Well,
It's whether we want to give them a light.
Right.
Well, if we don't give them a light, they just won't put one up.
Right.
Bingo.
Joel wants his light. He can barely see as he goes across the bridge.
Okay.
All right.
Town administrator's report.
I don't have much to add. Actually, I don't have anything to add to the report that went out this afternoon. As you mentioned, the police union contract did get ratified. The select board voted on it at the June 8th meeting, and Bruce confirmed that that the draft that was reviewed matched everything that we had agreed to. He made that determination on June 11th. So our town attorney recommends that June 11th be identified as the ratification date on the part of the town. And because it's not clear who is authorized to actually sign the contract, he suggested that it be the chair.
Oh, great.
One more thing. The Stony Hill Business Park project is moving along very well. A lot of good things are coming into focus. And so I think we'll be seeing some good things there. The Emerald Ash Borer Strategic Management Plan Committee, I'm trying to get that back on track. It's still a little bit awkward under the current situation, but I want to try to get folks solicit members, and then once we get people lined up, then figure out how we're going to move forward. And hopefully by then things will be more clear about what we can and shouldn't do. And that is pretty much it.
Okay.
I had a question, Valerie, about the reports and the timing. I noticed, this would just be a suggestion, when you send out to your group email list, you often include the agenda and your town report. Have you thought about doing it where it's just the agenda, so you're able to get that out sooner? I raise this by email, as everyone knows, just in terms of the timing of agendas and things like that. But I didn't know if there was a particular reason why you do both the agenda and your report as part of that mass group email that you do.
Because I don't know that folks would go to the website to find it. And I just try to make it more accessible that way.
Okay. I guess my only concern is just the timing. If it's coming the day of the meeting, that just concerns me. It doesn't give people a lot of time, and if they've already planned something for the evening, I just think we need to, letting people know about this, I think, is more important than if they're able to access the administrator's report immediately.
Valerie, what did you say before the Stony Hill Business Park thing? I forgot what you remember?
The Emerald Ash Borer. No, wait, the police union
Police
contract.
union contract ratification.
Okay, weren't we? So that was last Tuesday?
June 8th.
Thursday?
June 8th.
June 8th. And we had a meeting 2 weeks from tonight, so that would have been what?
The 15th.
15th? Oh, okay. No, was it the 15th? We had a. I'm just trying to figure.
15th
So
to
we did
interview
sign
the
it
police
before we got the
officer.
letter from jury attorney.
I'm sorry?
We'll go into it because we got some people that aren't supposed to be. Just
Yes, it came in, we signed it before that meeting.
okay. Okay.
So I guess, Val, I mean, the only thing I would say about the agenda is, I mean, if we get it on Front Porch Forum and you put a note in there to continue to check the website, I mean, you can send it out later, you know, if it all comes down to that. But if we get the agenda out, then it puts the onus on them to, you know, keep checking the website. At least they have the info.
Okay.
Other business.
Wait, I have just one quick thing. Valerie, I'm assuming it's incorrect, but I just want to double check the meetings on the website. It says April 13th and 27th, and those are Tuesdays. So I just wanted to be sure those are just incorrect, or are they correct?
Where are you seeing that?
On the town webpage where it says under select board and says 2020, 2021 calendar. And then you click it, and at the end for 2021, it's set on the way bottom. It says April 13th and then 27th. And I think those are Tuesdays. So I think they just need to be edited to say the 12th and the 26th. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I looked at, no.
Let's see. You are correct. I will edit that right now.
Okay.
Good catch.
Yeah, that's good. You're a year ahead of us.
I put it in my
Okay.
phone, so don't forget.
That's good.
Okay.
Edited. Thanks for catching that.
So is there any other correspondence reports or anything like that? Val, are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay. So then we have an executive session?
Personnel.
Personal. Okay. I'll make a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters for 1 VSA section 313.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Executive.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Jen.
See you
Thank you,
guys.
Jen. See you, Doug.
Thanks, Eric. Enjoy
Bye,
your
guys.
vacation.
Bye.